Hello, happy Friday, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to what is expected to be a very spicy breakfast with Boom. I told the guys, I hope you brought your antacids because we got some thoughts, some theories, and some definitely big opinions. But hey, everyone, hopefully you are enjoying gaming on whatever console you enjoy gaming on. I am currently playing multiple games, and I am excited because Black Flag just finished downloading. I am playing Doom, the new DLC, which is freaking awesome. And I know that there's a lot of stuff that went on with id, which I'm very saddened. But you know, the whole id Tech thing's got me vexed because I really think that's a great engine, and hopefully they still continue to use it. But we got to get into this PlayStation news that started with a post. But before we start reading these things verbatim, because like I remember the last couple of days I've been telling you that I have learned the ways of the Force. Bro, I'm a Padawan compared to, well, Crispy Bomb in the chat, who is the receipt keeper extraordinaire. And I started following what he's doing, and I have a bunch of receipts, and I have all of these receipts on purpose for a timeline, ladies and gentlemen, where it went from, hey, we're not going to do physical games anymore, to completely out of control. And what they have recently said, and I have some quotes here from Jason Schreier, is going to blow your wig. But Silent Cypher, what's up, brother? Good morning. How you feeling?
Good morning. Doing good. Great to be back with you guys. Obviously, I've been gone for a while. Went on a vacation.
Nice.
And now I'm roaming around in a boot because I beat the crap out of my foot during my travels. Yeah, I took a nasty fall in Yosemite, so I'm playing more games this week actually because I can't.
Did you tear anything, or is it just did you break anything?
So I had to wait until we got back from our trip, and I got x-rays last night. I'm waiting to see today what I find out, but I'm thinking I might have broken a couple small things on top, maybe a couple hairlines.
Maybe in the top of the foot. Yeah, those are sensitive, bro. Yeah, you're probably gonna be in that boot for about 6 weeks.
Yeah, but the good thing is I get to play a lot of games right now and watch a lot of movies. So there's plus.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody wants to get hurt to play games, but I understand. Yeah. You're taking the half glass full approach like I would. So yeah, good for you, man. Sorry to hear that happen. That sucks when you get hurt on vacation. That definitely blows.
For sure.
We're happy to have you here, and you have been very busy on the socials with this PlayStation stuff. So I am very interested to get your hot take on this, but. Crispy Bomb, what's going on, Mr. Receipt Keeper himself? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing good. I don't know how the stands are doing, but I mean, every post, they're spicy up in there. Lots of F-bombs, man. So, yeah, we're gonna get into it because it's definitely interesting how Sony decided to approach this. But yeah,
you sound a little muffled.
A little muffled?
Yeah, like a little low.
All right, I'll take a look.
Maybe something changed in the setting, because you definitely sound like if something's covering the microphone. That's we can hear you, but it sounds like you're a bit far away. So maybe it's the speaker or something. But yeah, take your time, brother. We'll come back to you in a second. Corkenstein, what's up, brother? Good morning. Lots to get into. Lots of happenings at Xbox. Asha, Cold. The reset, and man, it's a reset. But like I said, I know we're not going to get into it because we've already covered it to death. My biggest takeaway is that these studios that I absolutely love and adore, especially Double Fine, get to live on, and we are going to probably see a lot of great games from these studios because I believe they're going to thrive outside of Xbox, and I'm glad they were given the opportunity. But good morning, brother. How you feeling?
Good morning. Yeah, doing pretty good. There's me as a consumer, there's a lot of great things happening. Like I said, we got so many great games out there. I just played Black Flag for a little bit yesterday before I went to work.
Nice.
And it's really, really good. It's really good. It's really, really good. Definitely a massive improvement on the original, and the original was already one of my favorites, so it's definitely good. As far as all the gaming news, there's so much to talk about. The industry as a whole is kind of just on fire. I think GameSpot just let go of a bunch of people. So yeah, things are changing a lot in this industry and just in general on how entertainment media works. And it's becoming, it's a long time, but like you said, you already discussed it to death. I'm hopeful for the future.
I mean, that's all we can do at this point, right? Like, you can get out there, you can be hopeful, you can talk about it, put it on Front Street. You can support these studios by get their games, whether it be independent or otherwise. And that's about all we can do. But again, the industry I don't think the industry as a whole, not just particular Xbox, PlayStation, or anyone else. I mean, the industry seems like it's buckling under its own weight. And we're gonna see this continue, and it's gonna. I hate to say this, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better. But Fuzzy Belvedere, what's going on, brother? How you feeling? Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to be here with you guys. For the most part, just been busy gaming. Birthday yesterday, so relaxed.
Nice. Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's wild looking on social media. I see that people are still mad at Sony. I wonder how long it will last. Just because Sony is like, F you, we have
the notes.
So hey, this is going to be a fun one. I can't wait to get my 2 cents off my chest, because I made a poll about, cancel your GTA 6 if you're really about it kind of thing, and nobody seems to be standing on business. So it's performance theater is what I call it, but we'll get into it.
we absolutely will. So you know what, folks, chat, panel, let's get right into one of the big topics of the show, and that is the shit show that it is PlayStation Studios right now. PlayStation on July 1st put out a post where it simply states, and I'm reading their tweet verbatim, folks, important updates. News on physical discs for new games. News on PlayStation Store for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita. Now, this particular post, if you're interested to know how many people actually viewed it, it is currently at 174.4 million views. There are 104,000 comments. Now, I'm not going to read those comments, ladies and gentlemen, because they're really bad. There's a lot of big curses, which we don't do on this show, where we try not to. Some very prominent people in the industry. Hold on. Let me rephrase that. There are some prominent community members that are a big part of the games industry, not media per se, that had a lot to say about this. We saw comments from Shinobi 602. We saw comments from Gaz. Gaz is always funny. He says a bunch of things. And, at its core, ladies and gentlemen, I want this to be absolutely clear. Yes, were there some bots piling on the rabbit, so to speak, because that's just what they do? Yes, that actually happens. It happens on the other side as well. This is par for the course, ladies and gentlemen. Right? What I will say is that for the most part, there was a lot of concern from the gaming community. Not ponies, not bots, actual gamers that like physical media. You saw commentary, and let me pull this up here, because there are even Kojima, he's Mr. PlayStation. He had something to say. Now, I could find his in a second, but what I want to do is I just want to pull up some of the stuff here that this was posted by somebody is moving in the background. I hear a lot of noise. Not sure whose mic that is, but David Hayter, the voice of Snake, says this: no disc, no buy. He even shared a photo of his physical media collection and tagged in PlayStation. Now, Kojima Now, we all know Kojima. He had some things to say. We'll get to that in a second. But what was interesting from the start of this, gentlemen and chat, was as soon as it started spiraling out of control, what did Sony do? They took a 6-day hiatus from anything and everything in social media. Now, I've heard two sides of this story. One, they did this because they were getting blasted, and I think that's the obvious answer, right? But what was interesting is how they responded after 6 days. They went right after the supposed meteor crashing into the Xbox campus and destroying Xbox as we know it. Because we got to remember, we were told that by Games Media for 2 weeks that it was 5 studios canceled and closing, and games were being canceled, and it was the end of Xbox as we know it. And yes, there were layoffs, and that is ultimately horrible. No one's ever going to take away from the fact that people did, in fact, lose their jobs. But there were no studio closures and no canceled games. And the only one that's an outlier right now is what's happening with Arcane Leon, right? We don't know if the studio is going to be sold off. We don't know if Blade is going to be canceled. That's the only one. But everyone else, they're okay, right? Now, Sony did something on the 7th of July, 6 days later. And their first announcement wasn't that we hear you and we're going to work with the games community to try and figure this out. They showed a commercial for their new fighter stick, and they got roasted even worse than the original announcement. And I'm looking at it right now. It has almost 30 million views and 66,000 comments. And look, I'm gonna name some names here because they're prominent members of the games community that have called out PlayStation for this nonsense. Okami 13_, an amazing member of the community, simply writes, "Address me," and it's a picture of an elephant in a room. Phenomenal. Stallion 83. I think everyone knows who Stallion is. He was the first guy to get 1 million gamer score. He simply asks if the fighter stick is physical or digital, which is hilarious. Clobriel. We all know Clobriel. Clobriel goes on to say, "I know your PR strategy for over 20 years has been to sit things out and ignore noise, but something tells me that won't work this time." Now, Gaz, I had made this mention of Gaz, and this was a really good one by him, and he's really talented like that. He has the you know that dog that's sitting in a burning house that says "This is fine." Well, he has that, except he's wearing a PlayStation hat, holding the PlayStation fighter stick, and it's freaking hilarious. Klute goes on to say, "IDGAF," you know what that means, but posting this for the rest of the internet is, obviously it's ridiculous. He says, "We want discs." And look, I can keep going. There are thousands of these posts. And just to kind of circle the wagon, Silent Cypher, this isn't a bunch of console war bots piling on a dead pony. That's not what this is about. Like I said, are there some of those commenters in there? Yes, and we won't name those names, right? Just like we don't really like to name the ponies, right? We're not going to name any bots because that's not the kind of smoke that I like. But they're there, and I understand that console war rhetoric. But what I will say is that trying to, and we've seen this from Games Media, trying to sidestep that this is a problem, that's the problem. Ignoring that this is going on and that it's somehow just a bunch of really, loud people complaining on the internet for no reason, that's not the case. I want to get your thoughts on this because, look, there are some people that have brought numbers into the equation where if you look at their single player games, and I read this during the week. I think Fuzzy, you were with me when we talked about this. Might have even been Crispy Bomb as well, where third party games, the number's about 85% when it comes to digital. For first party games, that's literally a pony of another color. Because if you look at the numbers that I read aloud, and I don't have them in front of me just yet, I will go looking for them. The number are closer to 50-50 physical digital. So if Sony does not retract this, and it does appear that is going to be the case, we have a statement here, and we have some information from Jason Try, which I'll read when we bring Crispy Bomb in. But folks, I'm here to tell you, keep voting with your voice. Keep voting with your wallet. I keep seeing the people with the traded in PlayStation 5s, the cancellation stuff that's going on for PlayStation Network is so bad that Sony is actually sending messages to individual people, hey, come back for 50% off. And people are taking pictures and posting it on the socials. They're going to see, listen, they're going to have such a decline. It's going to be insane. But Silent Cypher, you've been very vocal about this. I'm going to get your hot take.
Oh man, there's so much to chew on this one, but yeah, no, I think this week especially the thing that I enjoyed was the fact that Sony came out, they paraded the removal of physical disc support coming up, and then they went silent for days because of the amount of blowback that they got. And how did they come back after that? How did they clear the silence? They told you that you could buy a fight stick. Bad move. I posted on Twitter and said, hey, you can go ahead and take that fight stick and shove it sideways. Because I don't feel like that is the way to come back to your audience after you literally just dropped that big bomb on them. And then it was just like, oh yeah, okay. Hey, here's your physical fight stick. Like, what? Like it's the tone deaf nature that we've seen from Sony in the past. It feels, I think I've said it a lot of times, but it feels like we've gotten back to that PS3 level of arrogance that Sony had, where they're like, oh yeah, you can't afford our system, go get another job so you can. Stuff like that doesn't fly. They're not reading the room. It's a bad move, and they need to assess these things. Maybe ask like a small audience and get a poll out there and get a feel for how people feel before you drop something like that. But that being said, it is Sony, and I think a lot of the people that are outraging it on the Sony side, as time goes on, if Sony doesn't make any moves, they'll flip their stance on it and be like, well, it's actually a good thing. It turns out, because it's best for Sony, which means it's best for me. They'll figure a way to mental gymnastics it. But I hope, honestly, that they continue getting smoke for this as things move forward, and people don't just suddenly buckle and say, yeah, you know what, it's fine, I guess. I think they deserve the smoke. I've had this conversation with you guys in the past. Personally, I shifted digital for the majority of my gaming more than a decade ago. So this decision doesn't hold the same weight for me necessarily. But at the same time, what I appreciate is like having options. Like having options is a good thing. If you want a disc, that's cool. But I like not having to do that. Like I like the option to have a digital front. But if you want to have discs, like you should have discs. And I think the biggest thing about that, right, is given what we know with at least the Xbox ecosystem, as you mentioned, it sounds like we probably have about 80 to 85% of the people in the ecosystem that primarily purchase digital. So I guess the biggest thing I would ask is like, what are these numbers actually like when it comes to discs? Like, I feel like there's been a very vocal drive against this. But what's the actual percentage of people who really do buy the physical stuff primarily? I'd be curious as to like the solid numbers on that, just because it feels like we're hearing a lot about it. People are freaking out. But again, to what Fuzzy had said, when I first saw that with the idea of like, oh, so GTA is not going to have a disc, you're not going to buy it now. Like, I don't see it. I think people definitely get in their feels when something like this is taken away, and rightfully so. Like, pulling something back like this as fast as they did is a scummy move one way or another. Like, no matter what your plan is moving forward, wasn't a great move. But and this I know that Cork and I don't always agree on this one necessarily when it comes to what a physical disc is anymore. But you know, ever since about 2013, with the exception of folks like Nintendo, and given some other circumstances, a physical disc isn't usually what it used to be. Sometimes you do get one that has the honest to goodness game all on the disc. Nintendo is very well known for this, having most of the game on a cartridge or having all the game. But a lot of games that do come out nowadays, you know, you're getting that thing printed maybe a month before it goes gold. And then when it comes out, there are updates that you have to get before you can actually play the thing, be it online features or whatever else they decide to add between when it goes gold and when it actually gets into your console. Sometimes those 1.0 release updates that they send in, sometimes it makes it so you cannot just throw the game in and just go like it used to be. Physical discs are just in general not what they used to be when it comes to that side of things. Usually just an authentication or a verification point that you actually have that disc, so that way you can access the content. And then you end up downloading a bunch of stuff after you put the disc in. And where do you download that? Not from the disc. You download it from the service. So it's a different environment than what we used to be in. And again, like if you want discs, I'm all for people having the options. But I do think, especially now, given how big some of these games are getting, it makes me wonder how something like a GTA 6 is going to turn out. Like, are we talking multiple discs now? Because I think dual layer, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think dual layer on the 4K Blu-rays, I think they get upwards to about 100 gigs capacity. So
something like that. Yeah.
So it's like, it's a lot, but in reality versus what games come out as now, that's not a lot anymore, unfortunately. And so like GTA, you're talking, okay, it's going to be a couple discs potentially. And so it's like, okay, so now we're going to have all these extra discs that you have to download off of before you can play the game. If you do opt for physical, I personally, for me, not really a big fan of that, which is again why I'll stick with the digital side, because I just want it to all get downloaded right there. I think there were certain requirements too when it came to the physical versus digital. I remember there was kind of a hard out with that when they started shifting to it, is if you have a disc, you're not just going to get the updates immediately. You have to put that disc in, it'll prompt you for the update, and then you can move forward. But with your digital library, everything just gets updated if you choose that option. So there are pros and cons to it. Personally, for me, like I said, digital is where I'm at. It is what it is. I don't see people freaking out about Steam not having discs. So I find it funny when some of this discourse happens, because digital's been around for a while. But I do appreciate having some physical stuff. Personally, for me, I like the statues. I like stuff like that. That's the physical stuff I'm interested in, because it looks cool. Makes the man cave look cool. I'll take it. Or it makes it nerdy, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's kind of my stance, is like I like that Sony got blasted for this, because again, options, you should have them as a consumer. The more that they reduce that option and force you into their specific ecosystem to buy their games, yes, they're going to make more profit. So of course it makes sense for them as a company, because they're going to make more of that money. But at the same time, you're taking away consumer options at this point. Now, the only other thing I'll say is, as you mentioned with Brad Rossetti's post about the insider flight being paused this week, and then them shifting to next week and saying that next week's going to be worth the wait. Jez had also mentioned on there about Positron, which, as we know, that's the disc to digital initiative. Now, if that is the case and that comes in, that's something where I'd say that's a good implementation for something like this. And I think that's great, because then that gives the physical fans, that gives them the option to get their physical stuff, but then they also have the benefit of a digital situation for the actual games. Correct. So that's a win-win to me. And I think that's the best way to move forward with this. I think that probably shifts a lot of people more into the digital side of things as time goes on too, because then they start to see more of the benefits of having a digital version where they get those updates, they get all that stuff, and it's just on the back end because their disc is connected to their account and they get all of those entitlements. But yeah, that's just my thought.
No, I mean, it's a good thought. And you made mention of something that I don't think a lot of people know. There is a very serious aspect when you talk about what Sony's attempting to do. And I want to use the word monopoly, because right now, if you were to go into a Target or a Best Buy or Walmart or GameStop, and you wanted to purchase a digital copy of a Nintendo Switch game or an Xbox game, it's not a problem. Cards are right there. You pick the game, digital, boom, here's your code, go home, scratch off the thing, and upload your game. You can't do that with Sony. Sony has removed any way for you to buy a digital game outside of where? Their storefront. You can't buy a digital game on any of the ENEBA or any of the the sites that you find cheaper games. You can't do that. You have to buy from Sony. Now, if Sony makes all of their games digital, what does that ultimately mean, Crispy Bomb? They dictate the pricing. So if you're gonna want, let's say for instance, you're gonna wait for a sale because you can't afford to spend these $70 or $80, they'll tell you when you can buy it. And does anyone else think that's a problem? Because I know that I think it's a problem. But you know what, Crispy? Before we bring you in, I have some information that comes the way of Jason Schreier. He has shared this new information about the future of physical format on PlayStation. And this is their rebuttal to all of the noise and all of the complaining and all of the posting and the community notes. Everything that Sony has been doing, they've been getting community noted left, right, and center. Now, some are ridiculous, sure, but they've stuck. I think that their first post had almost 14 community notes, which is unbelievable. They kept getting them taken down. People kept putting them back up, and they're still there. Well, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. According to Jason Schreier, Sony considers that its digital player base is already large enough to do without those who continue buying games in physical format. Let me just stop that. Let me just stop for a second. I want to read that line to you again. Sony considers that its digital player base is already large enough to do without those who continue to buy their games in physical format. Do you know that is as bad as saying, hey, go get a second job for your PlayStation 3? Or good old Donnie D, hey, if you want to play games offline, we got a console for you. It's the Xbox 360. That's as, I believe that is as bad as those two ridiculous sentences. But let me continue. The company will not change its retail distribution model. Stores will continue selling boxes. These will only include a download code. Currently, when Sony sells a first-party physical game to a retailer, the latter gets around 30% of the sales of the price of the $70 game. With the 100% digital format, Sony would keep all of that revenue, ladies and gentlemen. So you're going to start to see stores not carry their games. We continue. It says, as a result, the company expects to significantly increase its profit margins. I mean, listen, they're a corporation. That's what they're going to do. But the stores are going to get screwed on this. The stores are going to stop carrying their games. And what are people going to do? Have to go and buy their games directly from who? The one holding the reins, PlayStation. And they're going to dictate the pricing. Folks, you don't feel that's a problem? Because I certainly do. But here's some additional information. Sony would be convinced that over time, most players will end up accepting the transition to 100% digital ecosystem. I guess they're thinking people are just going to move on. The company believes that users will continue supporting PlayStation even without the option to buy physical games. And additionally, and this is the last paragraph, Crispy, they consider that it's not necessary to maintain direct communication with fans about this decision, as they trust in the strength of the brand and the loyalty of the gaming community. Holy shitballs, ladies and gentlemen. I'm reading at verbatim. There wasn't one extra word. Crispy bomb. This is a big FU to the fans. This is a big FU to the PlayStation community and even some of the most stout supporters, like MBG for that matter, who is a pony, just like I'm a bot, had a lot of negativity to say. I want to get your thoughts on this, dude.
Hopefully this worked. Did it work?
Yeah, it sure did. You sound great.
All right. Yeah, my mic, I think, decided after 2 years I'm done. So I ordered another one, but this will suffice. It's nice that you know, I go and make a smart purchase with the Steel series. It's a pretty nice one, but it's kind of complicated. It took a second, but it's kind of crazy that they would say it like this. Realizing that, you know, we've had these blunders before. Boom's already went over them. All these companies have done a blunder like this over time, but this is completely just pure greed.
Yep.
You have to realize that, see, the reason why us Xbots aren't like, you know, going crazy, like, you know, we're kind of just like chuckling a little bit, is because there's multiple different avenues that we can still get provided our games. The problem is Sony's going to take that away from you. That avenue on PlayStation is still much larger than Xbox's. So you look at it and you say, okay, like, yeah, they're still going to provide that digital code, but people, I mean, you're going to go to a store to get a plastic, you know, it's basically like, okay, the collection is now just, you know, the container. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? I get that the disc is not necessarily the entire game, but it does have a bit of, we'll say, not only nostalgia for some of us, but the ability to say, hey, like, you know, remembering my childhood a little bit. Now, I'm, you know, primarily digital, but I also have Game Pass involved. I have a lot of avenues on Xbox. So you look at that and you say, but do I want to open up a Steel book that I paid for a collector's edition and get a code in it? And if you remember, I believe Bethesda put out a Steel book that had a code in it, and then all of a sudden the next iteration with Doom the Dark Ages, they had a physical disc with it. So you got to understand, like, I do believe Xbox has an opportunity, and I also think the stands need to stand on business. And unfortunately, from what we're seeing from Black Ops 1 and 2, that is not the case. And you could say that, you know, 100, 200,000 people that have signed the petition, Sony don't care. Okay, they don't. And that's where I go and say, you know,
Why not have that option? Because they don't want you to, because they are a greedy corporation and they literally told it straight to your face. Okay. This isn't the even nuance speak that we give Xbox ish for. This is like full on F you, deal with it, have a good day. And you know what's the sad thing? Everybody talks about layoffs on Xbox side. Do you know, as we go on and you see more and more like, electronic departments disappearing in retailers and things like that, all this is TVs now or something like that. Like, as you see that, because got to remember, Sony's player base is much larger. So them pushing it is far worse than Xbox pushing it. So now you look at it and you say, how many people are going to get laid off in retailers and everything else because of this decision? This decision is bar none the worst decision I've ever seen a gaming company make. This is not the time for it, especially with all the things going on, RAM crisis, all these other things. Okay. Not only that, but we have seen them. Somebody like, you watch somebody like Brother BitCloud out there he's been banging this drum for a while. They are trying to screw you, and they just told you. Okay. And you could say what you all, that it's only partially on the disc, whatever. It's still something that a secondhand, person can go and say, I'm going to sell you this. It has, a disc in there. You get the license from it. They're going to make it so complicated, okay, that you're just going to want to buy from their digital store. That's it, plain and simple. And you don't even know if your discs are going to work that you've already bought. How about the disk drive that you got, because, they have a digital PS5, and then you go and get the disk drive. Well, what use is it in 2028? No use whatsoever. They are such a scummy company right now. I mean, I can't believe that they even allowed this to happen. I can't believe that they don't acknowledge it. I'm already seeing that, people are going to their live streams and they're getting banned for complaining about it.
Yeah.
I mean, they are literally throwing their middle fingers right in y'all faces. And you know what? Wherever you go somewhere else. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've said this time and time again, and I not only don't trust them to have my information on their ecosystem, but I also don't trust them in general because, as a corporation, you could be one way and kind of give the nuanced corpo speak, but at this point you have said, nope, deal with it, have a good day. I don't know what else to say about it. It's the most baffling thing because you have such a long-standing relationship with physical media. This is how you share games, all these other things, and these guys are just like, nope, margins are the most important thing. Screw the consumer. And I guarantee they're going to continue down this route, and they don't care about, the 200,000, possibly way more, that just haven't signed the petition, that are pissed off. They don't care. So I would say take your money elsewhere.
I mean, it's great. Listen, it's a great point. If they don't care about you as a customer, why are you going to give them your money? That's ultimately what you got to ask yourself. Now, where do they go? Do they go to the PC? Because PC doesn't make discs, right? So I don't know if that's ultimately the answer. Do they go to Xbox? Well, second half of the show, folks, we're going to get into what I think is an opportunity for Asha and Team Xbox to have a massive win. Now, if next week, you know what, I'm going to save my thoughts because something just popped into my head, and I have a suspicion. I don't know anything, folks, but I have a suspicion there's going to be some news. I'm going to hold my thoughts. Korkenstein, I want to bring you in, kind sir, but you know what I want to do? I'm a context kind of a guy. I keep saying that, right? Well, Crispy Bomb just mentioned about live streams. Well, we have a post here from Ecstasies where he has confirmed that during a PlayStation France live stream, the moderators for Sony deleted messages and temporarily banned users who were trying to talk about the removal of physical media. And they literally said, he has this in all caps, they're banning people who complain. Trying to shut down the voices of the people. That's not right, man. But look, I know that maybe for a lot of people in this chat right now, physical media doesn't mean anything to you. And I've already told you my story, and I'll say it again. I buy all my Switch games as physical media. I have a nice collection. It's got about 110 games. Looks awesome. I got a whole bunch of Nintendo statues around it. I'm a Nintendo. I don't apologize for that. Sony stuff, I usually get physical because I buy their collector's edition when they have them. Because I like Silent Cypher, even though I don't have an official man cave yet. I have a nice collection. Right? I like the statues. I'm nerdy like that. Almost 85-90% of the games I buy for Xbox are digital because I go right to Xbox Live. I get them, I download them, it's good. The next three big ones, Halo, Gears, Fable, I'm going to have discs because I bought the collector's edition. Thanks to Crispy Bomb, by the way. And my Halo edition has shipped. Yes, I'm so excited. But we have to circle the wagons here, Cork, and talk about Sony Corporation. Something happened the other day that a lot of people are not talking about. And specifically, games media. This is what I'm about to read to you, Cork, is a really big story that I only saw the community talking about, not games media. Check this out, folks. Sony Corp's president and CEO, Hiroki Totoki, sold 225,000 shares of his Sony stock on July 3rd, just 2 days after the company's controversial announcement. On July 1st, 2026, PlayStation revealed that it would completely halt physical disc production and transition into an all-digital format for new games starting January 1st of 2028. And here's some key details on the stock transaction. The sale by Hiroki Totoki was in the amount of 225,000 shares. The total payout at $21.02 per share netted him approximately $4.73 million in profit. The percentage of stake, the transition represented 56.5% of his holdings in that specific class of stock. He still retains 173,250 shares. And finally, other executive moves. He was not alone. The exact same day, Chairman Kenrichio Yoshida sold 400,000 shares, and Chief Strategy Officer Toshimitsu Miyatomo sold 25,000 of his shares, bringing the total combined insider sales to roughly 10.5 million. Look, listen, folks, I'm not an analyst. I'm just a boob who has a podcast. But if that doesn't ring the alarm bell for you, you're just not behind the wheel. I'm going to say that right now. But, Cork, let's talk about the way Sony has handled this. I think it's a PR nightmare. I think that this cancel PSN thing is a really big deal. Now, granted, I canceled mine, but not for the reasons of the people. I turn on my console 4 times a year. Now, this year, I'm going to turn it on for Wolverine, which I'm very excited for. I know a lot of people aren't, but I am. So I'm going to play Wolverine till I beat the hell out of it. But I spend $180 per year on something I don't use. It's a waste of money, for sure. But the way that Sony is handling this is bad. And you're a community guy. You are a subreddit guy. I can only imagine what some of the stories you've seen, but I'm going to get your hot take on this. Uh-oh, are you muted or did he go away?
Sorry. I think all of us got muted somehow. It's a bad move on how Sony handled it. Silent Cypher wanted some statistics and some facts, so I'm going to bring a little bit on why Sony is doing this. And from a business standpoint, It makes sense. As a consumer, it's not great because they don't offer a lot of avenues otherwise to buy their games, which, like you said, this is the first thing I said. It creates a monopoly situation. As soon as the news dropped, I think I posted it. I know we're in a few chats together. I posted the same exact thing. It creates a monopolistic situation. And I mean, the CFO even told you, we're going to monetize you as consumers. This is how they do it. But the reason why Sony is doing this, yes, it's part greed, but it's also because of necessity as a business. You're looking at an industry that has seen an 87% decline on revenue in physical media. It was like at 12 billion revenue in, I think, 2003 or 2008. Now it's at like 1.5 billion. That's a massive loss on revenue for physical media. You also have CD makers and people like that, disk drive makers that are out of the game. Samsung, LG, even Blu-ray recorders Sony pulled out of. You're seeing the games media, you're seeing the games industry being kind of like the last bastion of physical media. And when you're the last person doing it, guess who incorporates all those costs? The games industry. They're pretty much holding down and paying for a lot of the costs for physical media to continue. Companies aren't going to see a decline and lower their prices. They're going to raise their prices. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these companies and a lot of the industry as a whole constantly move to digital. Silent wanted numbers. Honestly, Xbox probably should have made this move first. They're at like a 90% consumer adoption rate for digital versus the PlayStation, which is, I think, at 80 or 85% adoption rate for digital consumer purchases. That's just, it is what it is. Mostly everybody, and as much as people want to be angry and hoot and hollering and, oh, I'm not going to do this, you're already 99%, you're already not doing this. So nothing's going to change. A lot of this, I feel, is anger because they want physical media. And that's the other thing. Physical media isn't even physical media anymore. Silent mentioned it earlier, and I've been banging this drum for a long time. You basically just get a disc now. As far as this last gen goes, you just get a disc with the hex code or the license key on it. That's it. Like 80% of games are just that are printed on physical media. That's the biggest thing. I think it's like, what was it? I'm trying to think of the things off the top of my head. I don't have the pie chart or whatever in front of me. Like the rest have maybe like a gigabyte or 500 megabytes of information on it. And then the rest is actually like, it's a very small, I think like a single digit percent where you actually have the full game on disc, at least for PlayStation. These were the numbers based off of what PlayStation has. So yeah, physical media is dying. So I don't blame a company for moving to a different thing. And I get it. You have people, well, why is vinyl, vinyl, they still make vinyl, they still make CDs, they still make DVDs or Blu-rays. Yeah, because they don't have an optical drive or a hard drive to store stuff in. The benefit is gaming does. So the only people that can use that technology are people who are physical. That's not the case with video games. We have a hard drive. We can install stuff. That's why you're seeing the games industry make this move a lot quicker and actually outright saying no more physical media, like from PlayStation. The problem is this creates the way Sony went about it was horribly wrong, and they're trying to create a monopoly. And I think people are fighting the wrong fight because they don't understand that their physical media isn't physical media anymore. It's, like I said, it's basically just a license key. What you should be fighting for is not to keep physical media around, but digital rights ownership. I wonder, was there ever, could anyone here on this panel tell me, was there a company in 2013, 2014 that was trying to give you ownership of your digital rights? When a console was releasing, so you could later on sell those games on a digital marketplace I can't remember. Was there a company that was trying to do that?
They got railroaded for
Xbox
it, brother.
One.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
There
It
you
was
go.
Xbox, right? Yeah, it was them. And all of a sudden, no, we don't want constantly online. You're on your phone 24/7. 99% of the people in this, you're always online. Oh, this is restrictive and blah 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 blah. It's not. Like, they were trying to give you the opportunity because they saw this move was happening. But in true Xbox fashion, they hit the turn too quickly before it was actually a turn and ran into the wall. That's on par for Xbox. That's the fight you should be fighting. Not, oh, we want discs. No, we want ownership of our digital purchases because we purchased it. That's what you should be fighting for. And that's the problem here. That's the real problem. It's not physical media is going away. It's that PlayStation's not offering you a way for you to have your digital rights management, for you to have your ownership in those, because at any point in time, your account is banned. Now all of your stuff goes away. You don't own any of that stuff anymore. And who has ever tried to refund something on PlayStation? It is the absolute worst experience you could ever imagine. So now with PlayStation, not only can you buy digital on any other storefront, even if you wanted to refund that digital, you're probably going to get banned for asking for a refund anyways. So it doesn't even matter. Like, that's the problem here. Let physical media die. I'm okay with that because it's not what you think it is. Start advocating and start fighting for your ownership of your digital media. And that's where I'll leave off.
I mean, listen, it's a fair point. I understand that the days of the cartridges and the days of buying a CD, everything was on the CD and you just went and you're good. But there is still something to be said about physical media. Now, I know that you said that, maybe, and I want to be fair, maybe it's not exactly a one-to-one with vinyl and CDs, right? Music is still available on CDs. You can still buy it on. Mrs. Boom buys it all the time. She does physical. She likes physical games. When there's a certain game that she likes, she'll buy it physical. There's a film, she'll buy the disc. Same thing for music, right? No big deal. If there's a particular film that I really like, I buy the collector's edition of it. Like, for instance, Evil Dead, one of my favorite films of all time, Evil Dead 1 and 2. I absolutely love them. So Evil Dead 2 had a Necronomicon collector's edition. I bought it. I have it. It's right here. And the fact that it's available for me to buy is fantastic. Now, do I have these films, some of my favorite films, on digital? I absolutely do. As a matter of fact, Super Mario Galaxy, I bought it digitally, and I also bought the collector's edition for me and Tyler. Because I still like physical media. Now, I know a lot of people in this chat say, listen, I went digital all the way and I don't care. But if you don't care, I hear you. I'm not going to fight you on that. But ultimately, and Cork said it, the way that this was done and the ramifications of what this actually means is a monopoly. Now, I'm looking for the tweet in front of me. I know I sent it to the DM. I sent myself a lot of stuff because that's how I keep pace. But there's a presidential candidate in France that had a lot to say about this. And, this is becoming the spotlight from governments because of this Sony decision has now potentially sparked the idea, something that Cork said about fighting for your digital rights. We don't have any of those right now. As a matter of fact, there was there's a couple of instances, and again, this is the topic, Fuzzy, that's not going to go away. But Sony thumbing their nose at the gaming community and basically coming out and saying, and again, this is not my words. This is coming from Jason Schreier, who everyone puts on a pedestal, right? When Jason talks, he gets it right. I wouldn't say that 100%, but he does have good sources. But he's saying this, not me, Fuzzy Belvedere. And the truth of the matter of what he had to say is that Sony, they don't care about the consumer. They just want their profits. And if this whole thing comes to fruition, it's going to be very interesting to see how many people stop buying their games and maybe move on to a different platform, because what they're ultimately saying is F you in so many words. Let's get your hot take on some of the information that we've talked about this morning.
Okay. This is probably going to sound like a blame the victim, hard take kind of thing, but Sony's been crap as a company for a while. Now, when I say that, it's not about the games they produce. It's not about the hardware that they produce. It's about their practices as a company towards the consumer. They've been crap for as long as I can remember. Everything from the hack to you can't really return games. And if you dare do a chargeback, you lose everything. Now, are there little bylines in Microsoft's account stuff that are similar? Sure, but at least there's the fallback where if you don't log in for 3 years, which is kind of hard if you're using a computer at all, or if you're using any of their apps, that still counts. But let's just say you go to the 3-year mark, you haven't logged in, they close your account. You could actually get their customer service to reactivate your account. Good luck doing that with Sony. So for these people that are continuing to ratio Sony, I applaud you. And I want you to stand on business, not just 6 months from now, but a year from now, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years from now. But I don't think you got it in you. In fact, I know you don't got it in you, because if you were really about it, you would have already switched. Now, I applaud those that have sold their PlayStations. Good on you. Did you pick up a Switch immediately after? Did you pick up a Series X or S immediately after? Probably not. You probably already had the Switch, so you're just now on that platform in PC, which is ironic because PC has been, digital for 2 decades now. So good on you for standing on this ridiculous business. And I say it's ridiculous because we lost the physical media fight back when they stopped putting full games on the disc and having it require that you log in online to get the remaining, information. It's useless. Now, there are certain exceptions. Like if you have a game that's not too graphically intense or has not the most overreaching, open world, sure, they could fit it on disc. If you're happy with those indie games that are on disc, by all means, you can not hook up online and you can play them. But those are few and far between, because we all know the AAAs that we look forward to, not a one of them you can take the disc, disconnect your thing from internet and play it off the disc. No, you have to connect to PSN, get the updates, get at least some of the information that's not on disc that, was after they went gold. So this disc fight is ridiculous. And this is someone that's been digital since 2016. Have I still bought physical? Sure. Because there was a buy 2, get 1 free, which ironically enough, it was for PS4 discs for God of War, Spider-Man 2018, and Gran Turismo Sport. Because I didn't want to pay full price on those because I didn't feel that they were full price. And even after getting them buy 2, get 1 free, I didn't feel that they were worth even the price I paid for them. But that's a whole nother story. If we're not going to fight for digital being cheaper, as in not buying any more digital until this $70 price tag that was supposedly for physical goes to at least 60 or lower for digital, then we're wasting our breath. We really need to push or put the screws to Sony and any other publisher. This includes Xbox. This includes Switch, which, by the way, sure, they still have physical cartridges. But if that's what you want to stand on as far as physical cartridges, then by all means, play those down-res, visually smeary games, which, yes, I have a Switch 2, and I regret that purchase. As someone that has a Steam Deck, it was a waste of money for me because I'm better off just pirating the games on PC. And I said it out loud. If the Nintendo ninjas want to come through my window, good luck with that. But when it comes to this whole physical versus digital, we really need to push, whether it's our politicians or just the companies. I think the companies are going to be the easier route because the politicians are clueless when it comes to this. They're clueless on tech. Hence why we have all the issues we have with pricing going bonkers right now. Normally there would be things in place like anti-consumer stuff and price fixing, legislation and stuff like that. They're not doing any of that. Well, some of them are benefiting off of these ridiculous prices with the share price of some of these companies. But all of that stuff aside, they're usually clueless to the point where they're not on the up and up on tech, with very few exceptions. But most of them, they're as bad as like your grandmother back when everything was a Nintendo, as far as when it comes to tech, or everything is an iPhone as far as any personal computers or phones and things. So the politicians are probably the worst ones for us to really try and get on board for digital ownership. The companies are the best because by not buying digital games until we get ownership means they're not getting any revenue, especially when a lot of these companies rely anywhere from 60% to 90% of their incoming revenue on digital content. So I don't like having digital movies I may have purchased through Amazon or Sony or whomever being taken away from me because they choose not to pay for a license. I would be fine with it. I say this in joke or in jest, but I would be fine if they took away the movies and gave me my money back and the money I paid, not the money that it may have cost like 2 weeks ago when it was like 80% off or whatever. No, give me the full money I paid day one when I got that digital content if you want to take it back. It's like was it no backsies or whatever? Yeah, I want my money if I don't have the content I paid for. And yes, I know the small print says it was just a license that we can revoke at any time. And that's the thing that really bothers me. And it even bothers me with other things that are not too techie. Like your car now is more of a hands-off type of thing where they're really pushing to have it where you can't even repair your own car yourself or have a local shop outside of a dealership repair your car. In fact, they're trying to make it more expensive for the fact that shop will have to get the same digital, diagnosis tools as what the dealership has, which they get at a price break since they're, a franchise for, said company. The mom and pop shop, they'll have to get one of those, tools for each and every brand of vehicle, which, it's going to make repairs more expensive. And they're purposely doing that. They also purposely made it so, hey, we're going to put heated seats in every car, but we'll charge you a monthly subscription on that type of thing. So it's like a lot of these companies, until we start saying, you know what, I'm good. I don't need any of your stuff. And it may be very tempting to have, GTA 6 after waiting 13 plus years for it since GTA 5. I mean, even though we bought it 4 or 5 times each, but that's the thing that we really have to stand on. We have to not buy any more digital games for them to really get the message. So if you're a PlayStation fan of physical content, convince your friends, your neighbors, family members, your coworkers, the casuals that are always buying Madden, COD, and otherwise. I mean, good luck at convincing them, but we'd have to convince them to not buy any digital games during this as well. So us physical crowd, which I'm not part of, but the physical crowd, as far as this, you alone not buying, I hate to say it, and I don't mean to be mean, but it's insignificant. Because I promise you, all of the numbers out there, if you take every physical game and that was sold in the past 10 years, combine it, I promise you 2 years of COD and NBA 2K outsold it. That's the problem. The casuals buying digital makes this a useless fight at this point, because you not buying physical means that, we didn't sell less than 20 million copies of 16 games. Oh boy. Well, guess what? We just sold 70 million copies of these 4 digital multiplayer games. We already made our money. So just take that for what it is. I know it's my 2 cents and I'm rambling now, but not to be mean, but stand on business. Be about it. Don't just post and community note and point and laugh at Sony, because that's doing nothing. keep your money in your wallet away from Sony or any of these companies that you want to have digital rights for that content, because that's the better fight. And then we'll actually make some waves. I mean, we've kept our money from Xbox on like what do you call it? For Game Pass, and you see how that eventually made things turn around. And the same thing was for games with gold. But Sony, a lot of times, I think the last time that Sony fans really, stood on business when it came to PlayStation was them closing the PS3 store. And guess what? They're still closing it because guess what? You didn't buy. You can't not buy and think they're going to keep something open indefinitely. That's the key thing. Be about it, stand on business, speak with your wallet, or just shut up because it's just noise at this point. That's all I have.
I mean, listen, it's a fair take. It's your opinion. Obviously, the numbers are the numbers, right? I mean, if, 85% of PlayStation players are buying digital, that leaves about 15% buying physical. Who are those 15%? Well, it's hard to say, but there are casuals that buy a game, they play it, they beat it, or they hold on to it, and in the following year when they're going to get the Madden 26 or the NBA 2K 26, whatever the next, game, FIFA, whatever, they go and they trade these games in, they get their new game, even if it's a couple of dollars they get from, selling it secondhand. I think that's a topic that we keep seeing come up is the secondhand stuff. It's like you can't sell digital. You can sell physical games and you can, trade it or whatever you're going to do with it. I think at its core, for a lot of people in this chat, maybe physical media doesn't mean a lot to you. And again, I'm a numbers guy. Third party for PlayStation, 85+% by digital. That's not exactly the case when it comes to first party. Now, to be fair, Sony doesn't have a lot of first party stuff coming out, right? They had a couple, Soros, and I think Soros might have only been digital. I don't know if that was even physical. Wolverine is going to be physical, obviously. But like Fuzzy just said, if you want to fight with your wallet, speak with your wallet, and Sony is going to get hurt over this, whether they want to admit it or not. And I think seeing their major C-level executives sell their stock tells me that they figured that this was going to be bad and their stock was going to drop severely, and it has. Now, it's not like $3 a share or anything. Last time I checked, I think it would drop down as low as just a pinch under 20, like $19.43 is the last time I checked. But it was up to almost 22. So it did take a little bit of a dip. And they sold it for 21 and change. Look, there's no easy answer here. I am going to say, though, in closing of this topic, before we get to the super chats and we get to the next Xbox topic, that games media has been running cover for PlayStation. They absolutely have, and no one can tell me otherwise. It's clear as day that, I mean, look what happened like last weekend. Like even Tom Warren's put out a post that Xbox was a disaster. And I like Tom. I like Tom and The Verge very much. But it does seem recently that a lot of journalists are running cover for PlayStation, and they are overproducing and overprinting anti-Xbox rhetoric. And we even know some of the journalists that have their actual paychecks supported by PlayStation. I mean, it's out there, folks. Christopher Dring is one of them. His gaming, whatever it's called, gaming business or whatever it is literally supported by PlayStation because he thanked them publicly. What are we doing here? But look, Korkenstein's got to get out of here, and we're going to go to him first on the next topic. But before we get to that next topic, let me catch up on Super Chat. So the first one of the day Let's see. It's me, the broke boy, drops very generous $2 super chat. He says, "Boom, you need to check out the article I DM'd you." Okay, you know what? Well, let's do that live. Over here. Okay, let me get into my DMs. Hold on just a second. And let's see. Which, you know what? I have a lot of stuff here. I've sent myself a ton of stuff. Do me a favor, resend it to me so I could take a look. Is it the Pure Xbox or the True Achievements? I'm not sure. Just send it again and just highlight it so I know what I'm looking for. Thanks so much for the support as always, brother. We super appreciate it. We have a new member, Lad907 in the chat. Thanks so much, brother, for being a member, or at least becoming a member. We definitely appreciate that here. 1234 in the chat drops very generous $5 super chat. It says, "First, no physical games, then come no physical console." Shaking my head. Yeah, I don't know how many years we are from that. I don't think it's next gen for sure. I mean, we know that there's going to be a PlayStation 6 and we know there's going to be Helix. Is there going to be a Nintendo Switch 3? Probably. Nintendo's always going to Nintendo. After that, I'm not exactly sure. But thanks so much for the generosity, brother. Oh, we have Nino Vestic, our generous friend all the way from Hawaii, as he's done so many times before. He has gifted one Double Barrel Gaming membership. Thank you so much for that, brother. We super appreciate that. Aloha to you and the fam. Hopefully you have an awesome weekend. Sith Lord drops a very generous $2 super chat. It says, quote, "Real PlayStation fans will support the devs and pay more." Well, that's what they said they were going to do. You got to remember, a couple of years ago, there were some people that said they would pay $100 for the next God of War because they'll pay for quality. And you know what PlayStation said? "I hear you. Now pay more." So thank you for that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Whoever was in that camp of "I'll pay more for quality," well, you're now reaping the rewards of your stupidity. So there's that. Mike the TV drops a very generous $2 super chat. Watches for 15 seconds, quote, "The games media." Chill, Boom. I mean, listen, dude. What am I gonna say? The games media is, look, I understand it's a business. I absolutely do. But the one thing I refuse to hold my tongue with is games media, because they're garbage. Is it everyone? Of course it's not. PureXbox.com, I use their stuff on a regular basis. BGC, even though sometimes Andy and the team, they get themselves in trouble with the community, I love what they do over there. Jez Corden and Windows Central and their writers, excellent group of guys. I like Tom Warren, as a matter of fact, very much. Tom Henderson has been on some shit lately. I don't know who peed that man's cornflakes, but wow, has he been on an anti-Xbox tear? I keep saying, I wonder if he didn't get the free Xbox console. Maybe he's angry. I don't know. I know he was in LA. You know, he walked past me twice. But for the most part, like you look at what goes on with IGN. I mean, IGN continues to step in it. They're a big conglomerate. They don't care, right? They have their writers and their content creators that just do what they do. But the GameSpots, the Kotakus, the IGNs, we all know they're all shit. Like, there is not even you listen. I'll put it this way: even though this is my show, I'm entitled to opinion too. And if I think the gaming media is full of shit, then I'm going to say so. But Mike, appreciate you being here, brother. Thanks for the generosity. Day Reezy in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says 90+ million PlayStation consoles with less than 1 million signatures. Yeah, Sony and PlayStation give a rat's ass. PS conditioned them for years. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's social media, right? Like, a lot of people will yell at social media. I don't know if this is that specifically the case. I really think people are angry. I really, really do. Now, again, Fuzzy Belvedere did a great poll. If you really are pissed, don't buy Grand Theft Auto 6. How many people are going to actually do that? Now, I'm not canceling it. I mean, for crying out loud, my rewards points paid for it. So I'm getting it for the price of good old free. I buy digital. Do I buy everything digital? No. I what I will say about PlayStation. First of all, I very rarely buy any games. Like I said, I'm buying Wolverine, and I'm probably gonna. I hate that. Not sound like I'm rah team PlayStation. I'm probably buying the physical copy because I think Best Buy has like a steel book that I want. Yeah, I want that steel book, so I'm gonna buy the goddamn thing physical. Absolutely. Does it bother me to have to get up again? I'm an old man. Of course it doesn't. I don't mind moving. I'm lucky I can still move with the back surgery that I have, so I'll get up off the couch. It's fine. But Julia in the chat, who's been a channel member for 58 months, simply says hello. Well, hello. Salute to you, Julia. Thank you so much for the ridiculous support. And we definitely appreciate that. But, Cork, let's bring you in and let's talk about Xbox's Project Positron. Now, this is something that they've been working on behind the scenes for quite some time. And it's a digital program. But what they are doing is listening to the fans. They are saying, hey, you have physical media, you want to turn it into digital so it's easier for you to play your games. We have a program for you. And right now it's being tested with insiders. Now, there's a couple of things here that I want to read aloud. Brad Rossetti. Anybody, if you don't know who Brad is, well, I certainly do. He works for Xbox and PC gaming at Microsoft, and he is the Xbox Insider Program lead, co-lead in the Gaming for Everyone and Gaming with the Disability community. He's awesome. Brad is freaking awesome. Well, we have here a note from Brad, and he goes on to say, Xbox Insiders on console. As you've seen, we've paused flighting this week as we prep for next week. Now, look, the pause there was a lot going on at Xbox. There still is. You're starting to see that my timeline is loaded with people that lost their jobs. Obviously it's egregious and it just sucks, man. Like I said, I can only say, and it's probably worth nothing, that my heart goes out to these folks. I'm a union guy. So I'm always going to vote for the worker. So of course I feel for these people. They have to figure out what's their next move. And in 2026, that's terrifying, folks. It absolutely is. But of course, there was a lot of pauses at Xbox. Well, next week they're going to start. And according to Brad, goes on to say, thanks for being patient. The wait is worth the wait, I promise you. Now, this comes off of a tweet from Jez Corden of Windows Central, who has written several stories about Positron. And he simply says in his official Twitter account, Positron cometh. Now, Jez doesn't really shoot from the hip. So I believe that's what, listen, it's lining up. I want to get your thoughts on this, Cork. What I see happening with Xbox is they are taking the lead. Now, you said something, I think it was you that said this about the percentile of digital for Xbox is up there. It's like 90%.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still making discs. Now, for how much longer, Cork, I have no idea. We can only speculate. But there is a running story, a theory that's going on right now. Now, during the transition from PlayStation 3 to PS4 and Xbox 360 to Xbox One, Xbox, the dreaded 2013, they stepped in it. Good old Donnie D said some things that practically imploded Xbox and all of the goodwill they had going into the next generation, that they simply had to just walk in and not be a D like Donnie D was. They stepped on it. And literally, PlayStation won the generation with a commercial that was thrown together and probably done in someone's back lot that said, this is how you share games. Now, this is my walking theory. Yes, I understand that the numbers for physical media, they're dwindling each and every year that goes by. I totally understand that. But physical media still exists in vinyl, in CDs, in all kinds of media formats. There is some way to get physical. So there is a place for it. Is it a big place? No. Would you consider it niche? Probably. But I keep saying I'm a context guy. And all I've been putting out there, no one's listening to me. But I'm going to continue to put it out there. I don't know what next week is going to be and how it's going to be announced. Right? I'm sure that Asha is going to come out and talk about Positron because it's a positive story coming off a negative week of negative stories for Xbox, and for good reason to some extent. But there's an opportunity here that I think would go and potentially win them the generation before next generation even starts. And that's simply coming out and saying, hey, community, because physical media is important to you, it's important to us here at Xbox. And we are announcing today that we will be supporting physical media in Project Helix for next generation. Now, if you want to get particular, they can announce that they're going to have a optical drive that you simply plug in. Will that be any optical drive? Well, according to Kayasante, that couldn't be the case because of the securities that go on the discs, right? But they could partner with someone. Because we all know that if you buy a PC now, Quark, they don't come with disk drives. You have to buy an optical drive that you plug in. I did that for Mrs. Boom on her 4070. She has an Alienware. It's dope. And she, like I said, she likes physical stuff. Games, movies, CDs, whatever. She likes them. So she has an optical drive. If they were to partner with someone like a Samsung or another PC company, and they simply offer the ability, because you got to remember, some people are not going to put all their games digitally for one reason or another. But if you give people an option, something that Sony has not done, it would be big. And you could, I know it's crazy, but you could get a lot of people to say, wait a second, PlayStation told me to go F myself, and Xbox is telling their fans, we hear you. You could get a lot of people, a lot of transients to come over from PlayStation to Xbox. Now, again, I can't give you a number, but there's an opportunity here. I want to get your thoughts on Positron, but the potential of announcing that they will support physical media. Do you think it'd be a big deal?
Honestly, I don't think Xbox is. They're looking to cut down costs anywhere and everywhere. And like I said earlier, when you're having disk drive makers, you're having disk drive makers stop making disk drives, basically. And that's going to shoot those costs up significantly. So now you want Xbox to make a disk drive that's going to be pretty pricey as an extra attachment to already a console that's probably going to be $1,000, possibly. Now you're looking at, $1,200, $1,300 for something just to play, just for 10% of your consumer base to play on. It's not a financially smart move for them. And sure, it could get some public sentiment, but that's why they're looking at things like Positron, to where it's like, okay, yeah, you have the discs. We're going to offer you the opportunity to bring those discs over so you could still play them. You still own them. You still have that opportunity. It's definitely a better financial decision for Xbox, especially in a time when we're seeing, like I said, they're doing a reset. So they're not going to look at how they can jump their prices up even higher for a very small percentage of their user base. I just can't see them doing that. I think the only reason why they haven't came out and talked about physical media yet is because I think they're still possibly reworking Helix. That's definitely something that's been rumored that they're doing on how to cut it back. And I don't know if they've made the choice yet that they want to remove the optical drive or if it will come with an optical drive. I don't know yet. That's something that I haven't heard anything about. But I think that's the only reason why they haven't came out and took a hard stance on physical media. I think a lot of it is also going to depend on the other publishers and things like that. Like I said, you have some publishers that are taken back by this. Some, like I said, Rockstar, they're like, yeah, you're not getting a disc. We're just going to give you a box with a code. They're fine with it. And they have the biggest game of the year, probably the decade coming out. Capcom, they're 93% digital. That's their consumer base is 93% all digital. I don't think they would really mind it. Especially when you're looking at these publishers that get to keep all those profits. In this corporate world, like I said, I can't see it happening. And like I said, sure, there are areas where you do have like CDs and vinyls and stuff, but that's a very, very niche market. And even those aren't doing too great as is. Even with Blu-ray players or DVDs and VHSs and stuff, sure, you have them out there, but they're very costly. And they're just very costly for everything that you want to do, and they don't have hard drives. That's the only reason why they haven't gone. If there was somebody that could say, hey, we're gonna take, you own this disc and we'll rip it for you, we'll offer this service, bring it onto your actual, and then you own the digital rights of it, all of that would cease and desist. Same thing with DVDs, with VHS, whatever it may be, vinyls. All of that would. I mean, vinyls already kind of did it with CDs in that sense. But if they can make vinyls digital somehow, because that is the best place to listen. For those that don't know, quick lesson: vinyl. The first time you play a vinyl is the best audio version you will ever hear, bar none. On top of streaming CDs, whatever it may be, that's the best, but only once.
Fact.
So if they were able to find to rip that into like something, I guarantee you vinyls would go away, CDs go away, DVDs would go away, VHSs, all of that physical would just die out. Plus the only other thing is because of places like Best Buy and Walmart and stuff, it would have a massive impact on the economy in those businesses, which is why a lot of them probably haven't done it as yet. But the time's coming. Eventually that will come out because they do have other versions too of physical media that just haven't caught on because Blu-ray's so dominant. But I'm going on a tangent here. Anyways, Xbox, I don't think they will. It's just not a financially smart decision for them, especially when, Twitter's not a real place anyway. So the performative anger I think you have from a lot of these people is just that. As soon as that PlayStation 6 comes out, I guarantee you they're going to buy it. They may take a hard stance now because it gets them engagement and clicks, but at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, they've already invested so much of their money and time and library into PlayStation to switch now, especially when consoles are going to be $1,000 plus. They're not going to spend that money to jump to a new ecosystem. It's just not going to happen. So I think people can be as angry as they want about this, and they have every right to be as angry about this. But like somebody else said earlier, stand your ground, stand on point. If you're going to boycott this, then boycott this, but most won't.
I mean, only time is going to tell, brother. But thanks so much for joining us as always. Enjoy your weekend, bro, and we'll definitely be talking next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, brother. Later. Let's bring in Silent Cypher. Silent, Quark mentioned cost. I'm at Amazon right now. I found a Blu-ray external player for $58. $58. Plays Blu-rays. Play physical media. Now, again, you went all digital. You like the statues like me. We're both nerds. But there are people that collect vinyl. There are people that still buy games on disc, music on disc. It's a thing. Is it a big thing? Well, not really. It's probably about 10%. But I think that besides Positron being a great move for Xbox, because it is a positive move, coming out and potentially saying that you will support physical media with Helix, I think that'd be a crushing blow to Sony. I really do. And again, maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I don't know, but I want to get your thoughts on that.
Oh man. So yeah. So you mentioned vinyl records and stuff, and that's a soft spot for me. That's a weakness. I have a pretty sizable vinyl collection myself because I enjoy that media. As far as gaming side of things go, like I think I have maybe 1 or 2 dozen 360 games that were not made back compat that I can still play on my Xbox 360. And then I think I have a couple Xbox One games from back when I found like a really good deal on them. But yeah, like besides that, everything I have is digital. I think I've got somewhere around like 1,100 digital games on Xbox. So, it's safe to say like I've got a library that I'll never be able to play through fully. I could stop buying games today and probably never play through everything before I die. It's just it's what it is. But I like that ecosystem. I like the benefits that it comes with, which is again why I think this idea that this whole positron thing, like trying to make it so you actually have, because the Xbox One and all discs forward, from my understanding, have that authentication on the disc. They have a unique identifier, so they could say like, okay, this is your copy, so you're entitled to a digital version of this because you hold the disc. If you get rid of that disc, then as soon as that gets activated on someone else's system, your rights are gone. You no longer have access to that game. That makes sense to me. I think that's a really good way forward for them to then. I honestly kind of think it's like it's like with cooking, or it's like with wine or stuff like that, is like some people aren't always sold on a certain thing. You got to find that gateway to get them into it. And I feel like this is a really good gateway to get people more into digital, because like I was mentioning earlier, like once you get the option to do digital and you see the benefits of having a digital copy, I could see a lot of people actually being like, hey, this is actually really nice. I don't have to keep swapping out the disc. Everything's updated right when I get to it. There's a lot of benefits to it that you don't really see when you're just using a disc. So this could be a good gateway for Microsoft actually to further limit the physical use and just ratchet up more with the digital. The thing that I was asking myself when we were talking earlier, and as I heard you guys kind of discussing this stuff, and kind of what you were mentioning originally, is the idea of Asha being able to come out there and really use this moment to kind of like give Sony the business and be like, oh, this is how you share your games on Xbox, right?
Yes.
The thing. So here's my thing. Like, as I said, I'm more digital, but I prefer that people have the option. Like, if it's there, cool. Doesn't really bother me that much. But my question would be, does the Helix actually have a disk drive?
No, it's probably not going to, but if I may jump in, I have an answer for you.
Okay.
So if Helix is going to be PC based, which is what it appears to be,
extra hard drive or disk drive. I gotcha.
It's not going to have a disk drive, right? It's going to be like what you would buy a new, whether it be an all-in-one, or whether it be a laptop, or whether it be a rig. Unless you put it in there, it's not going to. So probably it's going to come without a disk drive. But if they give you the option to plug it in via USB, there's your disk drive.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got you. I'm tracking. So in that situation, like obviously it's an option for you if you choose to have it. If not, it doesn't affect them as far as the hardware. So that takes away some of my thought with that. The thing that I could see though is like in regards to them coming out and trying to do that mic drop moment to try and blast Sony for this.
So much fun.
I would love it in the fact that it feels like it's a long-awaited karma for back when PlayStation blasted Xbox for the game sharing during the announcement of the Xbox One, right? Like that would be great. However, given the ecosystem sitting already at like 90+% for most people doing digital, it kind of feels like it would be a short-sighted win, because then if they come out and they're like, hey, surprise, you don't have a disk drive anyways, like, given what you said, obviously the option is still there for people to have a drive if they wanted to have an external drive. But you and I both know that the media, the only thing they would glom onto is, oh, well, the Helix doesn't have a disk drive. Doesn't matter if the compatibility is there. They'd be like, oh, it's doom and gloom. Helix doesn't have a disk drive. Xbox is dead again for like the 5,000th time. So I could see that being a little bit of a rake step, even though it's not a real rake step. The media would make it a rake step, right? And I think another one of the reasons as to why like Helix wouldn't actually end up having a disk drive anyways, like it seems like it's been kind of a given they're not going to anyways, given like the portability and the option of having it as a hybrid. But also you have to keep in mind that Xbox has to pay a royalty fee for the inclusion of 4K Blu-ray disc drives in every single system that it's included in. Incidentally, Sony is one of the primary founders of the Blu-ray format, and they're a major patent holder within those groups. And so a portion of that licensing or royalty fee ultimately goes to Sony as well. So that's something we've seen ever since they ended up putting in the Blu-ray drive back in the Xbox One, is that they have to pay a royalty fee for those disk drives every time they do this anyways. So not only are you paying for the hardware to add to the box, but you're paying a royalty for the use of this specific media. So that one seems like it's an easy way for them to ditch it. Is just like once that yes, exactly. Like just in chat, Vague Dreams mentioned they only pay for the royalty if it's activated. But once that system is used, that royalty is activated. So you are having to pay for any of those systems that get activated. It's not like how Sony has like 10 million PlayStations sitting in a warehouse somewhere. You don't have to pay for those 10 million that are sitting somewhere in a warehouse. You only pay once it gets activated. But given as we know that most of the consoles that they have out there have continued to sell out and they've reduced their amount in market, there's not a lot of overhead that they're sitting on with hardware that hasn't been purchased. So I would imagine they've had to pay quite a bit over time for those things. But yeah, no, it's an interesting place. I like the idea of this positron initiative. Like that's something that I can get on board with. I think that's a great middle ground.
Well, it's a great option for you as what? A customer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like it's a great option for customers to have that functionality, that capability. And then at the end of the day, like you are still having options. You're having choice as a consumer. And that's not what Sony is giving their user base. Like Sony is literally just giving you the finger and saying, you're going to take this, whether you like it or not, and just deal with it. I like the fire and the passion that a bunch of people are putting in with like keep physical media, blah, blah, blah. Sony's not going to do anything about it. They don't care. Like when Sony has their mindset on something, they will do it. You saw how they wrecked themselves for years with the PS3 launch and the arrogance that they brought to the table when they brought that system out. Sony will do this until it really, really hurts them before they consider any changes. And even then, I don't think they're going to move back on something like this.
No, they're not going to. And they literally said it. But the way that they said it was egregious, in my opinion. I just think the big FU to the community, coming out and saying that, well, we suspect that you're just gonna, take it and be quiet after a while is pretty bad. I'm sorry. Crispy Bomb, let's get your thoughts on this, man. Sony stepped in it, I believe. And look, is Asha going to come out and say this is how we share games? Probably not. I'd love for her to do that, to be honest with you, or at least somebody to do that, because that'd be a full circle moment. Would it be as big a deal as it was for PlayStation back in 2013? Probably not, but if they come out and say they're going to support physical media in one way or another, and simply just state it, because physical media is important to our community, it's important to us. That's all they'd have to say, and just simply follow it up with, we will be supporting physical media in the next generation, and we'll have that information as we get closer to the launch of the console. That's all. And how they would do it is simple. I mean, again, today I found a Blu-ray drive for $58. It could be cheaper by the time that comes out, or maybe a little bit more expensive. But the thing is, at least it'd be optional. You wouldn't have to buy it, because if you're an old digital person, you don't care. But the fact that they would support it would be a big W, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Crispy? Uh-oh, you muted. There you go.
It's a weird conversation because we are literally in a crux of, hey, like, people are mostly digital, but
yeah,
there are still cash cows out there that buy physical media and collect and probably buy more games than anyone else. And they are the ones that are really standing on business right now. The ones that are throwing out there, I'm canceling my PlayStation subscription. I'm doing all these things. But we're at a full circle moment for Xbox, because literally what was talked about in 2013 is now being talked about now. Okay. And in realism, people are going to say, well, yeah, they're soft launching you to go to digital by giving you the digital, entitlement to your disc. That's okay. I think that's an option for people. And, going off the the external drive talk, there's plenty that you can get for very cheap on Amazon right now. I just looked. Okay. And that's for the PC aspect. But remember, Helix is going to be this hybrid, and all they have to do is maybe have some licensed drives from many of these companies that continue to make them, because there's a ton. There's I could just literally just scroll and scroll and scroll, and they're there. Okay, so you find a couple that are willing to work with you on a licensed, they got inspected, do all their things. Giving the option is always going to be better than not giving the option at all. And Xbox has already learned this. So rather than just saying we won't support physical at all, they've already dumbed down how much physical media they put out. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same. If they think that it's going to sell, they're going to put it out there. You can get E-Day right now. You can get Halo Campaign Evolved right now, physical, because they think it's going to sell. But they've been doing this for a long time. So that's where I always say we will continue to support physical media as we have, even into the next generation. And we will tell you more on how we're going to approach it coming soon. And because they don't want to tell you how Helix is going to be. You know what I mean? And it more than likely would be an external. Okay. But the other argument is, okay, well, we have hard drives. Well, hard drives are 7 times the price of that disc that maybe they start putting some more gigabytes or megabytes on of the game itself, so that it supersedes. You know what I mean? So you're only downloading half the game. These are things that could be cost-saving measures as far as the actual console itself. So supporting physical media could be a thing, because the CD or DVD or whatever still has some of it on there, even if it's a game. All right. So you still can have that part of it be a positive rather than a negative. Now, like I said before, we look at it and you're like, okay, here my grandson or something. Here's the the plastic box with nothing in it. Like, I don't know, man. It just feels a little weird. Like, if I was a kid, even now, like you go and open it up, oh, there's a digital code. You could have just bought it for me digitally. But it's like there's some nostalgia there, but you also want to teach your the people that are younger than you, like, hey, like this nostalgia means that when you go and open up a present on Christmas and alls it is oh, okay, I owe you type shit. Like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, dude. Like, that's where I say, like, the problem that we have more than anything from Sony is that they are one of the largest disc manufacturers in the world. So now not only are they killing their own ecosystem's discs, but they're killing their third-party discs. Okay, because they've already started revamping their largest disc manufacturing plant. So this is a monopoly for them. They have the power in a way. There are some others out there. Microsoft actually works, not necessarily, they probably have some that go through Sony, but there's a couple others out there that will, keep making discs until no end. But in realism, you can use this positron thing to softly push people towards digital, see the benefits from it, give them entitlements, maybe be the first company that's pro-consumer when it comes to digital, okay? But also still supporting physical in some way. There is an opportunity here for them to not be the let's break down the door and here comes death to physical that Sony just did. And I really, really hope that they figure out how to do it. And I know that they don't want to step on a rake later, and I understand that. And I'm sure they're looking at it compared to the way they've acted before. They don't want to be going back and saying the exclusives matter again after they went third party. These are the type of things that we've talked about. We've given them shit for. Okay, excuse my language, but it deserves it. And that's absolutely where I say you have an opportunity to say we will still support physical discs the way we have. We have new opportunities to have entitlements to the digital aspect as well that will include many of the pro-consumer things that we've gotten on Xbox, like quick resume, stuff like that, that will help you enjoy games better. But we still want to be a part of that physical mentality because we think the gamers that are still with us and some that may join us will want that. And I think they've always wanted to be, hey, choices. We've always heard that from Phil. You can continue down that route and actually get a W from it. You know what I mean? Like, you can actually get a W. They got to word it the way they got to word it. They got to do their slight corpo speak. But in general, even if you say you support it until 2030 at minimum, as long as people are buying it, we'll continue to do more. I don't know. Just go beyond what Sony said. Make sure that you don't piss off a certain subset of the community. You can't do that as Xbox right now, and I think that's why we haven't heard anything. And I understand, because they got to figure out what's right for them, what is logical, and it's a tough situation because the mainstay of physical media, in my opinion, besides Nintendo, is Sony, and they just said, yeah, well, you want physical media after 2028, you're done. So. They have an opportunity. I don't know how they're going to approach it. I really hope they actually do something, though.
Again, it's just one of those opportunities, Fuzzy Belvedere, that you can't really put a price tag on, right? Like, it's because, okay, so ultimately, Fuzzy, it would be petty, right? Like, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe. But that's normally what Sony does. And this is the new Xbox. And business opportunities, when you see another business that has ultimately stepped on it and really pissed off their community, do you sit on that? Do you play nice? Do you take advantage? Because again, having it, I want to keep driving this point home, and I'm going to give you the microphone. if Helix is going to be PC based, right? If that is what it's going to be, a plug and play drive would not be so out of the question that it couldn't be done. It's an option. You don't have to buy this optical drive, but maybe somebody wanted to. And again, you can make them to order, right? You don't have to make 10 million of them and they're sitting in a warehouse somewhere. You can make them to order like you do with the controllers. You can partner with someone. Hell, you could just say, hey, depending on, because from what I understand, there's certain securities on the discs for Xbox that they can't be just any drive. So that, at least that's how it was explained to me. But the solution that I am putting out there is one that would not be uncost effective for people that wanted to continue to play physical games using this drive that they simply just plug in via USB. Let's get your thoughts on the potential of that kind of announcement coming from Team Xbox.
Microsoft is a numbers company. So they have the data and they know, unfortunately, this is probably not in their best interest as far as when it comes to being petty and contradicting Sony. Even though it would win them a lot of cool points, it would win them a lot of social media fandom. I think they could approach it from a couple of different ways, and probably the best way for them to approach it is offer, much like they did with the collector's editions of Halo and E-Day, although I think those were codes in the box, right? They're not actual discs.
No, they're physical discs, brother.
Oh, they are.
Yep.
Continue doing that. So all of your first party, offer a limited amount of collector's editions with physical discs. Do like you're saying, have that optional add-on disc drive, which there is a thing about the coding, so that way it prevents people from being able to burn them and make illegal copies or pirate and whatnot. But I think that would be the best case scenario. Now the key thing is the pricing, the licensing. Do this as a fan service and not for profit. And what I mean by that is sell it at enough so you break even, or enough to keep the lights on for the stuff tied into it, like doing the collector's editions. Now here's something that we're going to have to learn to accept if they do go this route, is that these prices for these limited run physical copy editions or collector's editions, let's say they do a couple of different levels where some of the collector's editions are just basically the steel book and maybe some digital accessory stuff that like skins or whatever, and the physical disc, and then the ones with like a statue or some sort of other physical item in the box type of deal. We got to be willing to pay, even for just the steelbook ones, a little bit more than what the digital is going to be. Trying to convince them to make digital cheaper than physical is probably never going to happen, because it didn't happen from get-go. Even though I think there was one game on Switch that's like that, where digital is a little bit cheaper by like $10, but make it where these physical copies are maybe $10 more than what a deluxe or a collector's edition would be. Make them available, make the disc available. It's going to be $100. It's, even though ones out there right now can be $50 and less, like you said, you saw ones for $40, because they have to have that read for that burned in code on the disc. That licensing aspect of it is probably going to be worth $30 or more. So if you make this optional thing that the hardcore are going to probably buy that have physical collections, and the ones, the 10 to 15% that are still physical only are going to buy it. You're not making a ton of money off of it. People will understand, hey, yeah, it is pricier than ones you can buy off of eBay or whatever, but it's because of the locking key on, or the code that's embedded on the disc. I think you can sell that as a separate item. Since this thing will be more like a PC, if it has a USB-C, line, I think that's fast enough for the data read. speeds and stuff like that.
Yep.
I would say it's worthwhile. Now, the drawback is I can see these things being extremely limited and possibly not poachers, but scalpers grabbing up a lot of them. Kind of like what they did, I think, with the PlayStation one for a short period of time, where it was like $80 for the actual PlayStation one from PlayStation, and then scalpers were selling them for $200 or something. So that is a catch that Xbox is going to have to figure out a way to control, whether it's your login or your gamer tag, with direct purchases is how it will work type of thing. And they should be able to see if you have 5 consoles. Now, will you need 5 disk drives? Probably not, but they have the means to kind of limit what scalpers can do in that type of regard, but make it as an optional item. Keep the costs at a minimum. Don't look to make a profit on it. Just have it as that fan service, because it could mean the difference of getting an extra 1 to 2 million people to convert over. And I say those numbers are low only because people are creatures of habit. Like I've been saying, if they're not canceling their GTA 6 pre-orders, chances are they're not going to switch platforms. And I've seen quite a bit of them say that, well, I'm done with PlayStation, I'll just be switching PC. And it's like I keep wondering, it's like, if you were PC all this time, what were you doing? Because they haven't really had physical media other than limited run stuff for like Flight Sim and Doom and stuff. So it's like, it would be a nice move. It would give them a lot of kudos on social media. But the reality is, with Asha looking to cut as much as she can as far as outgoing expenditures that aren't necessarily necessities that might not be leading to a profitable venture or growth, this is probably teetering on that. And they're probably looking at focus groups. They're probably, I wouldn't be surprised if we get surveys, because Xbox is good for sending out surveys. So if you get that survey, fill it out honestly, kind of thing. But yeah, this is a tough one, because they're probably looking at something that'll be in the hundreds of millions of investment to continue on doing physical, that they're hoping on a prayer and a wish that enough convert over to make that hundreds of millions of investment worthwhile. But keep at it. Keep requesting that they do something along those lines, especially if you're a physical collector. If you're collecting the discs and you want, and probably the best thing for them to do is make it so, at worst, even if you don't make a new Helix game physical, make it so any of the back compat stuff can still play on this disc. Any 360 game, any Xbox One game, any Series X game should be able to be playable on Helix via this route. Now the catch would be, there needs to be more original Xbox and more Xbox 360 titles that are allowed to do that, especially considering that they've acquired some of the publishers on games that previously weren't allowed because of Activision being who they were. But now I think they need to reiterate making a lot of that back compat catalog even bigger, as far as stuff they own, or ones that, at least if you owned it on your original Xbox or your 360, that it should be able to work, even if it's in virtual mode or virtual machine mode on the Helix. Basically, it would be like a built-in emulator, which that was part of the plan on how you would get some of the Xbox One and Series games on things like the Xbox Ally or other handhelds. So they could expand that program to work on Helix. So that way, hey, I have, this game from the original Xbox, put it in. Oh, it still works. Oh, that should be how they approach it, because if they do that, that not only locks in those that are currently in the ecosystem, but that would be enough to motivate at least those that are willing to convert over. You know what? Let me sell my collection over to, GameStop, or see if I can trade, this old Call of Duty for the other Call of Duty for 360. So, I have a few Call of Duties on PS3. So have it where it's like an even swap, because those prices are still as high as when the game was new in a lot of cases. make it so but then that's on GameStop. And if GameStop wants to remain relevant, they should help encourage Xbox to do this and be willing to go that extra mile for, the PlayStation crowd that might exchange their physical library for a physical library on Xbox. But I have my doubts, but I would love to see it even if it's just for the pettiness, even if it's just for the lulls or whatever, because how you share games, like they need to like mimic that same room. Because like you said, it was somebody's back room or it was behind the stage or something when they filmed it.
That's exactly what it looked like. Yes. They literally filmed it and threw it up on the socials. That's what they did.
I'm pretty sure Tina Amini can knock off that stage setup, and so they can do something along those lines. And I guarantee you that would be something for games media to talk about for the next 10 years. So I think it would be worth it, because then that way the games media will be forced to talk about something positive about Xbox, despite not wanting to talk about the negative of PlayStation. So even for that, I think it would be worth it as getting the gaming media not talking about Red Rings of Death when that was decades ago.
Yep. Some other knucklehead
things along those lines, but that's all I got.
No, I mean, listen, this has been a great show. I didn't expect it to go 2 hours, but we did have a big panel here. Shout out to, of course, Cork, who had to leave early because he's going on a bit of a trip. But let's get everyone out of here. Before we do, gentlemen, we catch up on super chats. We have It's Me the Broke Boy dropping a very generous $5 super chat. It says, it's about choice with disc/digital. I'm mostly digital, but still prefer disc on some occasions. Special or collector's editions of games, in all caps, should be physical. I absolutely agree 100%. Silent Cypher drops a very generous $10 super chat, who's on the panel, by the way. Says, I'll be honest. I've done the note in a box at Christmas for my son for some digital games. Was he disappointed? No. He was absolutely stoked to have Slime Rancher 2 and a VR game. Times are different. Yeah, I agree. But like I talk about Tyler all the time. He's a physical kid. Like, he likes physical games. It's probably because of me, to be honest with you, but he likes physical. Sayu Taku in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, didn't they say Helix would support backwards compatibility through the past generations? Then there should be a drive for OG Xbox and 360 games. I absolutely agree. Again, I don't know if it's a drive that they were considering or the Project Positron, which is going to give people the ability to transfer all of their digital games over. From what I understand with Positron, is it works with Xbox One and it works with Xbox Series games. I don't know if it works with Xbox 360 or OG Xbox games, or is that something they're going to do eventually? I'm not exactly sure. Day Reezy drops an additional very generous $5 super chat. He says he'll deny it, but here is the crispy truth. Crispy Bomb is in a cave with Tony Stark building Xbox Helix from a box of scraps, and in all caps, a box of scraps. Oh my goodness, that is hilarious. And lastly, we have a really nice, generous €22 super chat here from Roy Van Dalen in the chat. So Roy, thank you so much for the generosity, brother. He says, "Hi, Boom and guests. How about a company that makes physical games in order? I guess he meant by order. They have the images from Xbox. You buy one with your own customizations. Companies like GameStop can buy bulk for a store, which is cheaper. I mean, that's a good idea, but limited run is still physical. They're still going to be a physical company. They're still going to probably make discs. I mean, look, we saw some. I didn't read any of them live on the air. I probably should have, but like Domino's really went in on PlayStation, where they literally confirmed that they're not making pizzas anymore, but they're going to make digital copies and sell those, and see how your belly feels eating digital pizza. It was funny the way a lot of people did it, but we saw a lot of like big companies that do literally survive on digital. GameFly being one of them. There were quite a few other ones. GameStop is they're physical. Are they antiquated? Yeah, I guess you could say so. I think physical media doesn't have to be the main, but it deserves to be around, even if it's 10%. to be honest with you. And again, we'll see what's going to happen. But gentlemen, let's get everyone out of here. We'll start first with Silent Cypher. Brother, thanks so much for joining. We super appreciate it. Hopefully your foot feels better and you play a lot more games, at least now that you can just chill. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people follow you on social media to get some hot button information and opinions? And what else you got going on, brother?
Well, thanks as always for having me. Chat, you guys were on fire today. It's always great to see all the familiar faces. Fuzzy, I'll see you later on this evening. Shout out to Cork from earlier. Hope he has safe travels. And Crispy, it's always good seeing you, bud. Boom. Hopefully I will be back this 2 weeks from now. I have a doctor's appointment, but I'll keep you updated on timing. But yeah, as far as where you can find me, you can find me all over social media and on Xbox. If you want to play any games, add me as Silent Cypher on Xbox. Social media, you can find me on Twitter being an ass goblin as usual, giving Sony fanboys the business, because I just honestly, some people just like to watch the world burn. And that's kind of the mentality that I've taken whenever I go on Twitter. It's just fun. It's fun to watch people get in their fills and get bent out of shape because they just can't accept the reality of a specific console that they support undyingly. But yeah, you can find me on those places. You find me hanging out with Fuzzy this evening on Fright Nights with Ferocious Fee. We will be talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, Fuzzy, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
That was an excellent film. Yeah, that was excellent.
Yes, so we'll be talking about that. Obviously, catch us there. Fuzzy will mention more detail on that. Man, besides that, I'm going to be kind of off the grid until I'm back next Friday when we're going to be talking also about Obsession on Fright Nights with Ferocious Fee.
Very nice.
So yeah, besides that, hopefully you'll just catch me playing some video games.
So I don't know if you guys are into Korean horror. If you are, there is a film coming out called Colony. It's by the same director that did Train to Busan. If you like that, go watch the trailer. Mrs. Boom and I saw it yesterday. Holy cow. It looks freaking really, really good. It's called Colony. Go check it out. I don't know what digital platform it's going to be releasing on, but if you like Train to Busan, it's the same director. It looks freaking awesome. But
that's up.
Crispy Bomb, sell the brand, brother. If people want to follow you on the socials to not only get a large helping of receipts, but the crispy truth. Sell it.
At Chris Bomb on X, Chris Bomb 28 Xbox Live, and yeah, you will probably find me Monday, and we'll have more topics probably. I want to give one last point to my physical media argument. Did anybody see that sports cards would be a thing again? Because I didn't. Always remember, sometimes you got to have it in your hand. And trust me, these kids that are in the sports card collecting, they want stuff in their hand that, they can look at visually. So always remember that. I want Xbox to have options. Be safe, be well, be awesome. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely, brother. I think Monday we're going to be talking about that interview with Asha Sharma that she just did that a lot of people aren't talking about because, obviously it got buried with all the bad news, but we'll be getting into that. But Forza Belvedere, sell the brand. Talk about Fright Night with Ferocious Fee happening later this evening. And what, obviously, that film that you're going to be watching, the Scouts, what is it called?
Sorry about being on mute. It's called The Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
It was Mrs. Boom and I watched that last year. It's an older film, but it's excellent.
Oh yeah, and me being a big zombie fan, it's one of my favorite ones, just for the fact that it's like kind of resourceful as far as how you would fight the zombies if you just happened to be in a town overrun with them. And being a Boy Scout, I guess, kind of comes in handy at that point. But yeah, it's. I want to say, being on this podcast is so much fun. Being on here with you, Boom, Crispy, as well as Korkenstein, as well as you, Silent Cypher. I just love hearing you guys' thoughts on the industry and what we have to look forward with gaming, both on platforms as well as the games that are coming out later on this year. I know I wouldn't say I'm a big digital proponent, but I do want to make sure that we push for the right battle, being that we own the stuff. I'm tired of seeing stories where platforms pull away movies that you've already paid for and then don't give you any money back, kind of thing. That needs to stop, and it needs to stop like yesterday kind of deal. But yeah, we hold these companies accountable. Speak with your wallet. Your wallet is the ultimate voice as far as to make them listen. So always remember that. And play some games. Buy some games. Buy them new. If you're going to buy them secondhand, it doesn't really count towards the physical sales numbers. I mean, it helps out GameStop. It doesn't really help the publishers or the platforms. But buy the games new, or just wait until they're on sale, buying them new. I mean, either way you look at it, do what your budget allows you to do and have fun with these games. Look forward to hopefully seeing everybody in the chat for Fright Night with Ferocious Fee tonight. Like I said, the movie is Scout's Guide to Zombie Apocalypse. If you're into zombies or if you've seen that movie, just come hang out with us at 6 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Me and Silent Cypher, as well as Presto Beaches and Fee, my wife, will be discussing the movie and probably a few other things. And then the following Friday, we'll finally get to talk about Obsession, which I know there's a lot of people in the chat that have probably seen it 4 or 5 times by now. But yeah, be on the lookout for that this following Friday. But outside of that, have fun playing games. Have fun on social media. I'm going to say this. It's fun watching people ratio PlayStation and they try to play like they don't see or hear it. You know, there's some social media manager like they're at it again. Keep at it. Keep holding the screws to them. Do what you got to do. And hopefully see you guys here on Monday for Xbox Lunch Break Special. See you then.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Chat, thank you so much for the generosity, as always. A big thank you to everyone that's hanging out on a Friday morning to hear what we had to say. And hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. I got a couple of videos going to be dropping over the weekend. Banjo-Kazooie is one of them for sure, because Toys for Bob had a lot to say about them. And I'm very excited. Monday's show, I'm already starting to write. And, of course, again, like I said moments ago, we're going to be talking about that interview that really went under the radar and some of the things that Asha had to say about some of the spending that went on with prior. She didn't specifically mention Phil Spencer, but you know that's who she was talking about, and she goes into more detail. I mean, she's very serious about being transparent, and you know, Xbox is bloated, man. They had to do some things, and their spending has been ridiculous. So we'll see what happens. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. Have a great gaming weekend on whatever console you have fun gaming on, and of course, we're going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day, ladies and gentlemen, it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad told us when we were kids. He'd say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.